I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Councilmember Missouri. Here. Councilmember Clausen.
Here.
Councilmember Alexander. Here. Councilmember Conklin.
Here.
Councilmember Brinker.
Here.
Councilmember Brandt. Here. Mayor Long.
Here. Approval of the minutes.
No minutes. Forgot.
So we don't have that?
No, we'll
Let's
approve
skip
them both the next time.
Yeah, let's keep that one. All right. Public comments and requests, any one from the public? Cindy lives in the city, because she has something to do. Wait, there's someone coming in. We just got the public comments. Do you have anything to
No.
comment on? Okay. So we'll move on. Closure of North Vesper Street by Uncle Albert's to September 12th and September 13th. First reading.
So this is a street closure request, that failed to make it to the agenda at the previous meeting. Uncle Albert's wishes to have another weekend event for their cornhole tournament. It's a makeup date. It's actually a makeup date for the cornhole tournament. Requesting the voting dates of September 12th and 13th. Staff realizes that because of the oversight, there won't be two readings before the 12th and 13th, with our next meeting being the 21st. But we wanted to bring it to council, anyway. I did reach out to the city solicitor on a different matter, actually for a different closure, and he had mentioned that just to remind council that it's not an ordinance set, that there has to be two readings, so it is at your discretion.
And it does still follow the other rules that council set on street closures of only 2 per month. From one business.
Since it is a makeup date, I'm assuming for rain, could we forego the second reading because it's a makeup date?
I don't think so, because we made the old corner, didn't you?
Yeah. Basically, majority rules on whatever we do, it's not dictated by law. But we put that process in place for a reason. You know, and if this is I don't know, if council wants to go past it, once we go past it once, everybody's gonna expect. You know, and we put that there so that everybody had ample time, that if they didn't like that street was gonna be closed, they'd come back and argue the next time. But that's, again, council wants to make a motion and move, and the motion be that we approve it on one reading. We'll all just vote the way we feel.
Can we talk for just a minute about rain dates and change in dates? Because I will tell you what did not happen this past Thursday night. The street did not close at South Highland Street for the Shamrock as well.
That's August 27th is their date.
I thought it was the 20th.
It was the 27th. I can double check that.
Will you check and make sure, because I thought it was supposed to be the 20th. And I mean, I just think this is the second time we're dealing with a rain change or a day change or something along that line. And I just think that perhaps that's something we need to consider for the future. I mean, I don't think we should, I don't feel like it's fair to change something for one and not change it for everybody. I think that Heather's right. We made the whole quarter come back. And, you know, we don't have another meeting scheduled, but perhaps what we need to be looking at is if there is a rain event or if something happens that the event can't take place because of weather, or if people have made a contingency because of weather, maybe we need to ask people to start making a contingency for weather. I don't really know, but it seems kind of difficult for people.
Go ahead. I'm gonna say, if we've approved it, to me, it shouldn't take a second reading. for a second, because we've already approved, so
We
therefore.
approved the action, but
Right.
here's my argument.
But so my thought is if act of God changes the date, then, and we've already approved it, then I'm okay with. Not having to go with the second one, because we've already approved it once.
We did, but we approved it for a specific date that people know that's when it's gonna happen. And it moving is different. Again, majority rules, I'm just
Right.
playing devil's advocate on what I expect of when I walk downtown. And somebody decides to start yelling at me that they didn't know it was gonna happen. But I say, I made the case and it's what council decided, it's fine, you know.
I have to admit that this is the, I don't know if I didn't look at dates, this is the first time I realized we didn't have a meeting on the 14th.
Yeah.
So if this hadn't happened, I'd have been here on the 14th. Alone, but I'd have been here.
Yeah, the Labor Day holiday kind of put a wrench in our normal schedule, so.
I feel the same way with Barb, like, I feel like we already set the precedent with earlier this year with Old Corner. And having them come back for a second, a second vote on it. But I do think that we need to maybe further look into the fact that rain happens, weather happens. And maybe then adjust what we have from there.
So you're saying, if I'm understanding two of you, you're saying to not do this, but to look at a change in our policy for next year.
I agree with that.
Is that what?
That's really what I was saying too, Jules. I don't know if it means that we ask people when they submit their requests, that they tell us. So didn't somebody submit a request and say we want a rain date on?
Had a few,
I think we've
yeah.
had some people who submitted their requests and said we have a rain date as well. And so if we do the
The
original
form
reading,
has that as well.
I'm sorry?
Our form does have it.
Yeah.
To provide.
so that if folks do come to us with a rain date and we approve the reading and it has the rain date in it, then I think you've had your rain date approved. It's there, it's,
Right, if they'd done it on the original request.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if these guys did or not.
Go ahead.
If we don't approve this, we are giving them a different treatment than the Old Corner, because for the Old Corner. We called a special meeting to have the second vote for them, so that means we're not being fair with.
I don't think any of us are saying not to go through with it. I think we're all saying that. Some of us are saying that we need to do a second vote, a first and a second, because that was what we did with the Old Corner early on. I'm not saying that they can't do this. I'm just saying that I think we need to revisit it next year and maybe change some wording to allow rain dates. But you said the rain dates are on there and people don't fill them out.
They do, and like, specifically Uncle Al's does, they only have it on one night, but they give me 2 nights for that weekend in case it rains.
Okay.
So, but if it rains all weekend.
Right, yeah, okay, now I understand. But, again, like I said, I think that moving forward, we need to revisit it to change some wording. But obviously, I'm okay with doing this, but it needs to be voted on twice, because that's what.
So to me, there are 3 ways we can go about it. We deny it entirely. 1, we approve it on 1 reading, or 2, or 3. We schedule a special meeting to be able to address it the way our policy has said.
I would like to make a motion to have a special meeting on the Monday before that. What would that make that? The 7th?
Labor Day.
That's Labor Day.
That's the date that Rick was gonna
No,
come
no,
back.
that's the 14th. Labor Day's the 7th.
Yes,
Well, so the 14th
This
is
is the 12th and
after,
13th
so
yeah, this is after, so it
So-
has.
Oh,
It would have to
I'm
be next
sorry.
Monday. It
it
would
would have to be the
31st.
31st.
Next Monday. Oh, but we could have a meeting every Monday in
Every
August.
Monday in
Yeah,
August.
Yeah, it's been a busy year.
Wow. Or we could have it on Labor Day.
But see, yeah, we could have on because we'll have the city manager.
It would be good intro.
Your first meeting will be 5 minutes long.
So I would like to make a motion that we approve it this evening and we will set a special meeting sometime before the date of this event. That we will kind of approve in a second. since that's what we've done in the past.
Motion on the floor and a second, any discussion? Jeffrey,
I would like to, if we're going to do that, then at the next meeting, we are going to look into this ordinance and we're going to change it so that we are not having special meetings and solidify it, because the spirit of the law of why we did this is so we let the community speak their mind about a concert or whatever and tell us, do they approve of it or not approve of it? That was the spirit behind that. So for me, the spirit has been given. The weather has changed it. I'm okay with giving them the one reading tonight because the letter, the spirit behind what we did was what it was. But I'll vote this way, but as long as we fix it.
Also
As
address
we
the
address
ordinance at
it.
meeting.
Yes.
If we address it and say that if people have planned a rain date, please put it on your, please put it on your application so that for future, we do not have to have a special meeting. Because it doesn't seem
I'm not
fair.
having special meetings anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't seem fair to have done it to the old, to meet the old corner and not have done it for these.
We don't even need to talk about that, because we've already got a motion in a second.
right, we have a
So we
motion and a
can talk
second.
about that later.
Go ahead with that. And again, it's not a law, it is a policy that we adopted. And I think that was already discussed that we would like to revisit how that policy would work for the future. So, any other comments on the motion? Okay, call for the vote, please.
Councilmember Missouri,
Yes,
Councilmember Clausen,
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander,
Yes.
Councilmember Conklin,
Yes,
Councilmember Brinkman.
Yes.
Councilmember Brandon,
Yes.
Mayor Long.
Yes. We have no other requests?
No.
Okay, unfinished business 5A, selection of projects for the 2026 CDBG program.
Earlier this year, June and July, City Council chose a number of projects to put forward for our 2026 CDBG application. We understood that a few of the projects would have to income qualify. Staff went forward with those interviews and unfortunately did not get a response that we needed to qualify those, mostly based on non-responsiveness. But so we are moving back to you to pick projects again. The same projects are being put forward, but we do have to certify the amounts going to each. So if Angie is here from CEDACOG to kind of explain a little bit more or to answer any questions.
Well, you were in the middle of something when I cut you off to start the meeting, so maybe you can pick up where you were.
Yeah, so like we were discussing earlier, there are various different ways that we can attempt to redo these surveys come the spring, and try and give Carter and Abby even more time, and hopefully get responses. We had about an 85% non-response rate, which is what really hurts. The surveys that we did see come in, you know, somewhere within the qualifying realm that we needed them to be. So they could potentially be qualifying projects for 2027. We can try mail outs, we can try QR codes, we can try door to door again, phone, you can post on social media, on the city website. There are various ways to get the word out there about what it is. So those are means that we can go to try and do for next year. Try and qualify them before we even start the application process. So that way we know that they are qualifying projects to bring before council. The two that did not qualify on the original list were number 4 and number 6. So that was $78,165 and $44,500. I don't have my glasses. $594. So those two amounts would need to be reallocated. Originally, what was selected were the 3 infrastructure projects and then the remaining funds to go to the Clinton County Housing Authority for the Poor Man's Circle utility upgrades. Number 5, we can still qualify. Abby and I did talk about that because it's considered, you know, one of the ambulance routes to the emergency room. So we can make that project still occur, which was $45,436. So it's the two, number 4 and 6 that we were unable to qualify and need to look at reallocating funds.
Discussion.
just I think so people know that not answering the door and not responding to these surveys are the reason why we're not getting this project, the storm water management, and it was an important project. It's unfortunate that it's gonna be put off.
I think that's unfortunate in the sense that, I mean, we do have a lot, and I'm not sure what our laws are as far as soliciting, but we do get people knocking on doors pretty regular these days, windows and redoing the roof, and I think a lot of people condition themselves just not to answer the door. This is something that we're not here to sell you something, we are trying to improve your neighborhood. We really like your response. I would love to keep trying at it, but that's up to council. If they don't want to wait, it's fine, but
The houses are not, no response to this.
it's 85%.
Yeah.
What's that number?
What was the one area, like 6 homes? I think we had one response out of that, and the other was, I say close to 15.
Yeah, it wasn't a big sample size, it was not a big service area.
21 houses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would it cost to send certified letters to people respond to that?
Well, the issue is now we're running into timing. The application's due at the end of October. We have to pick the projects, we can do a final resolution, MGS to do the application. But we can certainly get the surveys ready for next fall and get the funding just a year behind.
I don't have a problem if we have to wait on those two, but I do think that we
So
have to
that-
find a way.
So the question now is, where do we move the money to?
Right, reprogramming it to which other
I think if
needs.
if I remember correctly, we were gonna do the 3 paving projects. And then the remainder was going to the housing authority.
Yes.
Do we want to do the 1 paving project? That put some money towards the east side fire rescue program, and then we can take the money we're gonna for that, maybe put paving. I'm trying to remember where the east side was.
The
coming from.
east side, we decided to fund on our own out of the city's budget, to keep them out of this process and the longer wait and the higher wages.
That's right, that's right.
Okay. So if we could, so I just did the math, if we do fund number 5, the remainder of funding is $210,147. I do know this project with the housing authority, they have plenty of funds to match the project and would appreciate the extra $3,000 that $210,000 provides them. Or we can put it in the stormwater project as well. We can fully fund the housing authority's request, and put the difference in the stormwater.
Anyone?
So if we decided to, like Abby said, put the funds up with the city, the housing authority, then we can do all of the stormwater improvements for 2027. Is that what I'm understanding?
We can do 4 and 5 and
Yeah,
we will attempt to do 4 and 5 or 4 and 6.
4 and 6
year.
Okay.
5 we would still do.
Okay.
Because that can qualify, you know,
Okay, okay.
at least we're making a dent in that issue.
And the number 2 is completely outrated. No, that's not going.
Yeah, we're not gonna be able to meet the beneficiaries with that, unfortunately.
Okay.
And we've eliminated 3 as well, so that just leaves us.
Yeah.
With
Okay,
5.
all right.
Everybody want to make a motion to that effect?
And I make a motion that we will use our CPP money to fund project number 5, which is the Lock Haven Stormwater Infrastructure Improvements, and project number 1. The Clayton County Housing Authority, and provide them with the remaining funds. That 210 number that Abby gave us, to give a little extra to their pots.
Do I have a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Motion floor is second, discussion, questions? All right, call to the vote.
Councilmember Missouri,
Yes.
Councilmember Clausen,
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander.
Yeah.
Councilmember Conklin,
Yes.
Councilmember Brinkley.
Yes.
Councilmember Brandon.
Yes.
Mayor Long.
Yes. Thank you for coming over to explain that.
Of course.
Okay, 5B, 2024 CDBG budget revision certification.
This is a sort of revision in regards to the zoning and subdivision land development project. As discussed and approved at last meeting, we have an on-call services supplemental agreement with Michael Baker. The amount not to exceed $10,000. Staff is proposing to revise funds from the 2024 CDBG contract from administration in the amount of $7,115, and a bit from the Hannah Park Fitness Court project or Hannah Park improvements in general, about $2,885. That amounts to that 10,000. If we do not reach that mark, the funds will be revised back to Hannah Park.
This is not to exceed, and this is to cover costs of extending a bit the discussions and final decision on the zoning. I think it's the right thing to do. We want to make sure everybody has enough time to look at and to comment so we can make best decisions. Do I have a motion for the budget revision?
I move for the budget revision 5B.
I'll second.
Motion floor is second. Any questions on it? Call for the vote.
Councilmember Missouri,
Yes.
Councilmember Clausen,
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander,
Yes.
Councilmember Conklin,
Yes.
Councilmember Brinker,
Yes.
Councilmember Brandon,
Yes.
Mayor Long.
Yes. 5C, city manager transition and site and stuff. As you know, we're taking action tonight to start a new era with a new city manager. During this time, we've been paying additional monies to staff members to pick up duties in the interim. Those would end once we have someone on board. I am proposing that two of the individuals continue to receive a stipend, half of what they were getting. Because I want to give Brandon ample time to ramp into the situation, to transition. He's coming from South Carolina. He's gonna have a lot of things on his plate. And having that additional support and supporting our staff for doing that, I think is the right thing to do. I think one person suggested perhaps that we do this for 2 months and then reevaluate. If someone agrees with me and would like to make that motion, I appreciate it.
I'll make the motion.
As I outlined it,
As-
half of what they were getting,
Half of, well, yeah, Abby.
2 months.
Maybe half for the next 2 months, every.
2 months, and then we're gonna evaluate the other 2 months to see if we need to go any further over there. Okay, that's the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion floor, second. Questions? Call for the vote.
Councilmember Missouri,
Yes.
Councilmember Clausen,
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander,
Yes.
Councilmember Conklin,
Yes.
Councilmember Brinker.
Yes.
Councilmember Brandon,
Yes.
Mayor Long.
Yes. Before we move on to new business, I think this is before that. That is from council. We'd like to thank you for everything you've done in the last
Thank
8
you.
months.
Thank you.
And money for some self-care things, and understand you're having some things that embellish before your wedding, and we're making a part of that time for you.
Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Abby.
Exactly.
Good job, well done.
Thanks. Undershooting in the spot, but I'd be happy to do that. Thank you.
Okay, 6A, consideration of hiring the position of city manager.
I don't have anything for that. It's all you do.
Yeah, Mr. Brandon Carter here, that we have gone through the process with lots of applicants to hire again, committee and the council had it narrowed down. This is who has been put forward to be the next city manager of the city of Lock Haven. Do I have a motion to
So moved.
I love that.
members of the hiring committee, that's good. Motion for a second, any questions or comments? You sure you want this?
Yeah, yeah, it is.
Yeah, I'm so excited for you.
I'm super excited as well.
All right, call for the vote.
Councilmember Missouri,
Yes.
Councilmember Clausen,
Absolutely.
Councilmember Alexander,
Yes.
Councilmember Conklin,
As long as there's no 4 o'clock phone calls.
Yes.
Councilmember Brinker,
Yes.
Councilmember Brandon,
Yes.
Mayor Long.
Yes.
Thank you, Jan.
Okay, we have a work session immediately following this meeting to continue discussing the potential changes in our zoning, the new zoning ordinance. Does anybody have anything else to bring before council before I close the regular meeting?
I have just one thing, and I finally got the information to both Dave and Abby, but the Clinton County Sewer Authority is looking at a new agreement. Because the agreement was really never rewritten after the city turned over control and operations to the sewer authority for their own contractor. So they've been working on that, and it's not fleshing out as quickly as we had hoped. But I did get copies to both of them. The current agreement, or the proposed agreement, would increase our Lock Haven's fee a little over that, but that's it. I think, in my opinion, it was written a little unfairly initially, but that's just me. So hopefully we get it fixed and we get it in place, but it's gonna have to go to every municipality, so I would be surprised to see it in place before the end of the year.
Yeah. Thank you for the update. Any questions? Anything else? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I motion to adjourn.
So we adjourn and we'll open up the work session on the zoning. Thank you. Andy.
Happy birthday.
Coming. Yep. Okay, so
I'm gonna let you turn it over, but I'll just introduce Seth Coons is on the call on the screen, from Michael Baker International. And Nick, who we have been talking with, although Seth has been there as well, had a conflict with meetings, so Seth is here, very familiar with our ordinance, can answer any questions in a similar fashion. We just haven't had his face on the screen live, so he'll be able to answer questions more directly. I'll have mine open as well, and Cindy is here as well, so.
okay, so real quickly, we have had the public hearings. There have been some different input from different council members and some members of the public. Have we made any changes based on any of that, or is that all waiting till the council discusses things as a whole? Are we gonna discuss those suggestions? How are we handling that?
We have made changes to start in a couple lines. We have made changes to uses between, I guess, across all districts, low, medium, high, based on the public hearing, and based on council's comments, Councilmember Brinker's comments, but also comparing that with I wanna say best practices. So kind of some legality things that we have to be aware of. For example, it was group homes today, we were talking about that. If we move them out of residential districts, it could become a Fair Housing Act conflict because they're residences, and if we don't allow those residences where people reside as we do with other people, then it becomes a possible conflict, so we were advised in that way. But most things, like motel was removed from the medium density, and just put in high in the items of that.
You and I talked the other day, and we talked about this. There's been a big backlash about changing from low to medium, what have you. And I haven't spoken to the people that we were talking with for some time yet. Honestly, I don't think the issue is about low to medium. I mean, medium, this low to medium to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I am not a professional. But low to medium to me is about lot size, setbacks, those types of things. I think the real concern for those who are worried about it changing is what's allowed in medium that was not allowed in low. That's where the concern is, allow uses within, and I'm sure they're watching whoever, but they can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's where the real concern here is. You're gonna change this to medium density, and now all of a sudden, I'm gonna have some huge apartment building next, I mean, to be honest, where I'm at's going to high density, I could wake up tomorrow with a 6-story building maybe, I think that's where the concern is how does this change what's allowed to be in my area now that wasn't allowed before, that I felt protected that it wasn't allowed? Do we have something like that that shows that these are the things that are now allowed that wouldn't have been allowed before?
Yeah, I did prepare a side by side of the uses, yeah. So. It was a little difficult to compare, so I compared the existing low density with the proposed low density. And that was difficult in the way because we have different uses in our new ordinance that are not in our existing. Either because we consolidated them or we added new ones because there are new uses in life. Like the live work unit didn't really exist in 2008, so things of that nature. I'm just gonna share my screen a little bit. It's going to be difficult to look at, but we can scroll through together. Are there any uses that you're thinking of specifically?
Well, let's talk about the elephant in the room, where a large elementary school once resided and concerned about what that could become.
Can I speak on that for a minute?
Sure,
Because I
absolutely.
knew that would be a concern. I actually asked Cindy and Abby very early on in this process what the changes to that area. And to give people in the room context that may not know, I live a half a block from said school. So, what changes in that area may look like with the new zoning rules that we're establishing. And looking at the last projects that were proposed for that area, none of those would be automatically approved with these new zoning changes. They would all still need some sort of zoning, conditional permit, variance, something. They would all still come before council. They would all still need to be approved.
It would still be a public
Yeah,
process
it would
that
still
everybody
be a
would be able to
public
give their
process.
input to as they can
Yes.
now. Again, I'm playing devil's advocate to try to bring these things up. So does the new ordinance in any way make it easier for any of those things to happen? Yes, they still have to go through that process, but it doesn't make it easier for those things to occur.
Well, specifically for age qualified and veteran housing, council did pass, I just wanna make sure that it's clear that those uses are permitted in every residential district.
Right, that's already allowed under the current, so that would not change, it's still allowed
And we already passed the parking change for those previous to these ordinances.
for those uses. But I think the concern becomes about the other uses, and could those be,
Larger apartment buildings or
Yeah.
things like that.
So in looking at, just these residential uses. And we're looking between this first gray and this blue.
Which
okay,
one's which, Abby? Is the blue the old?
This gray is the existing.
Okay,
Blue is the new
Okay.
proposed, but we're comparing the existing low density with new medium, is that correct?
yes.
and will you please explain how that change came about? Give us a brief description of what the change, please.
So currently, the existing ordinance has a single family residential, a low density residential, medium, high. We eliminated the single family residential, which was basically just the Sunset Pines neighborhood and a bit of Glen Road. Not much. So we transitioned that to the low density. That kind of shifted what we have designated as low density. And you can picture the Sunset Pines neighborhood is not the same as like the Hill District or,
Right,
the airport.
or,
Yeah,
you know,
So-
hill section.
so then we became, and it's not high density either, it's very much medium density, the lots are. Little smaller, houses are a little closer together, but it's not high density in the way that. Buildings are stacking up, apartments are everywhere and things of that nature, so that was the reason for the shift, and we did that for, simplicity reason. So our goal on this onset was to make the zoning ordinance more understandable, more user friendly. It's difficult to understand a single family residential district when I might live in a single family home, but it's a medium density residential. So how do you think about that? You know what I mean? So that was the reasoning behind it. So looking at this first gray, or I guess it's the second gray and the third blue, we have each qualified, still permitted. Bed and breakfast, in the old ordinance, it's listed as an accessory use, but it's permitted. The new ordinance, it's just permitted, it's not an accessory use. Community residence group homes actually permitted in the low density, and we're moving it to conditional use. Single unit detached, permitted, still permitted. Single unit semi-attached is special exception and it's moving to permitted. Two-family dwelling is permitted and it's not in the new ordinance. And Cindy, if you would like to clarify what a two-family dwelling is compared
Is that like a duplex?
We've had this conversation. I think it's just a matter of semantics. A single family semi-attached is 2 units. They're typically side by side separated by a firewall. We consider duplexes that situation for an over under. And I think a lot of times other places refer to over under as a 2 unit.
So single unit semi-attached would be very similar to what that is. So just two-family was permitted in the old ordinance and it's permitted in the new ordinance. Manufactured homes were not permitted in the existing low density, but they are permitted in the medium density, the new proposed.
And they would be required to meet all of the other building ordinances and everything, so
Correct.
it wouldn't just be that we'd have a manufactured home park in the middle of, like Dickey could not become a mobile home park.
Correct. So with that, the manufactured home community is a conditional use. So if it's becomes a community where it's a development of sorts, that is a conditional use. But as far as building one, having one manufactured home placed on a lot, that's permitted. That's a single. Rental conversions still permitted. Short-term rentals, conditional use, that's not a new thing in the proposed ordinance, not even addressed in the existing one. Temporary shelter facility, not addressed in the old ordinance, it's a conditional use in the medium density. And veteran housing, always permitted.
Question for you.
Yep.
Temporary shelter you were talking about, again, something that I think could be a hot one. It says not in the prior ordinance. Was it in any zone in the prior ordinance? Which one was it again?
I don't think
Temporary shelter.
Temporary shelter.
I don't think it was addressed. Period.
I guess, yeah, so what I'm saying is we're actually addressing something here that because it wasn't in there, we couldn't have stopped it anywhere in the city. So we're trying to take steps to protect as far as that's concerned as well, which under the current ordinance, there are no protections for.
Yes, I believe that's correct.
Am I correct in that statement?
I believe yes, because I don't think that there was anything that addressed a temporary shelter.
Yeah, 'cause if you don't allow for it somewhere in your ordinance, then you can't stop it. They can come in here, they can fight, and they're gonna do it, they're gonna get put wherever they want. So by putting it somewhere or giving conditional use status, we're at least trying to control where it might happen.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Just wanted to clarify. Thanks.
The uses moving on from here does get a little different because they're, you know, they're not residential uses, and I only compared the residential district, so for, as what you just mentioned, if you don't see it allowed here, that doesn't mean it's not allowed in our zoning ordinance, it's in the other districts, just not in medium, low, medium, or high.
Okay. On this, it has it on healthcare. General. Mixed. With a C, temporary shelter.
Do you have do you
Yeah.
have it on the old ordinance?
I'm sure,
Okay, well, I think.
I have the one that we had.
Degrees.
Yeah, but
That's only.
but that only goes to medium or high density, right?
I think,
It doesn't talk about.
It
that.
doesn't
think so.
talk about the it doesn't talk about the high commercial or anything like that.
but we were saying like we don't think that the old ordinance addressed it.
Yeah, well,
The rest of
Yeah,
it
it
does
may
say
not.
gray,
Yeah.
the gray is the old and the blue, that's
Yeah,
the same thing for the whole thing.
Yes,
So, yeah, if it's not in the gray anywhere under any of the things, then,
but this only goes to
this is only residential.
residential.
right.
I searched current one. And it just says temporary like a shelter, roadside stand, investment, temporary structure. Non-permanent structure, building, temporary use, temporary emergency, so I don't see it, yeah.
I think that it's important to understand too,
Yeah.
that part of the reason for doing this project was to bring things to reflect today. And no, there was no, I don't think there was any intention, I think, and Sean here, he was also on the committee, our intention was that this was to be easier to read, easier to follow, more clear with what the real world looks like today, as opposed to however long it had been, I think 15 years since there'd been a major overhaul of the ordinance, at least. Was it 15, Cindy, that it's been?
It's almost 20, since 2008.
So 18 years, so that's a long time, and lots of things have changed, and that was really the goal, was to bring things into the modern era.
So moving on to civic and institutional, I'm just gonna name the new ordinance has government facilities as permitted. Police, fire, EMS is permitted. Only change from the existing low. School commercial is conditional use, was not in the low density or the medium density residential allowed. And that was because we had a separate public institutional zone, so that was done away with. It got very borderline of you was spot zoning, like we're
Yeah.
only zoning this one block, public institutional, when schools should just be allowed where the people are living, naturally. The University College, this was a broad comparison of uses, so the existing ordinance has school, public, and private, and that includes secondary education in it. So it does have it as a conditional use, and that is a permitted use in the medium density residential as well as low density residential, the new ordinances.
But even though it's permitted, it still have to meet whatever
It still has to
requirements,
meet-
setbacks, parking requirements, what have you.
And I think that's like one of the most important things that we need to stress to the residents that may be listening and have the concerns is just because this is changing doesn't mean it's going to happen. It means that there's extra steps or, you know, but it still has to come before someone to be approved. Like, we're not just gonna be willy-nilly building buildings.
Well, if they're, correct me if I'm wrong, if they're permitted and they meet all the requirements, they're gonna come in front of council for it. I mean, if they meet all the requirements, what that says you have to have,
Right.
and it's a permitted use within that zone. It's not coming in front of us or even the planning commission necessarily. I mean, if they've meet all the requirements and it's permitted, it's done. That's what the fear of the public is, that this changes so that something just happens and there's nothing they can do about it. Okay, that's where the concern is. And, this part of this is to try to address those concerns, show people that it's not as scary as maybe you might think it could be. Or maybe they'll point something out to us that we say, you know, you're right. We should take that out of being allowed to happen there, you know?
Right.
So that's why we're talking now. Yes,
Well, this goes back to our conversation last week with Buc-ee's. You may not want another Buc-ee's or another vape store, but that's not for us to say that somebody doesn't want 15 vape stores in town. Our ability is to create opportunities. But we also have to create opportunities that the community also wants. And so I look at it as, yes, we could put Cs and have it come before different people, but if we don't feel that the community wants this, don't give it even an option for somebody to come in and, well, bring it before a zoning board to put it in there. So that's what we're looking at. Yes, we could put Cs and S's for everything, but do we really want these entities in those environments? That's our checks and balances before it even comes to a zoning board. So it's good. That's a nutshell with that. So when I see development, I don't think a house. I see a complex. So every time I see the word, so whenever I handed this up to you guys, every time I see the word development, I'm not seeing a duplex. I'm seeing 6, 7 different buildings being torn down and a development being developed. And that is different than a building. And so that's why I took some of these things that were, so we have a veteran housing project that is in a low, medium section. Should that, a development be in a low section? I don't think so. So that's why I was making my suggestions, because I'm thinking a block takeover is what I'm looking at. I'm not looking at a building. Do we have, so I guess my question is, for some of these that I already put out, do we have places that are already established that would qualify that we're in these sections as a development? And that's why we're putting these in a low, medium section? Or we just say, you know what, this would be a really good idea and let's just do it. And then have a kickback and have 50 people come in here and have that discussion. I really don't want to have 50 people coming in and having a discussion. This is the time to make that argument.
But I think it also goes back to Abby saying earlier about fair housing. We cannot get ourselves in trouble saying this can't be here, or this can't be here, or we can approve this when you have to have fair housing. I mean, I guess like maybe I'm seeing it a little different than you are, as I'm seeing it as if you're gonna tell someone this and then this person can't do this, that's an issue.
But that's what we're doing with our mixed sections. But we are telling people, if you want to have a business, this is where you want it, this is where you can do it. So the question is, my question is, do we have these in the low, medium section currently that fall under these? And is that why we're doing it? Or are we just putting assisted living facilities as a development just because we're being nice and trying to appease different ways? I need that clarity, because I don't have that clarity right now.
So no matter what So there are someone wants to develop something. You're gonna use that word, I don't know, I can't think of another one. They're going to develop something. There's two aspects. A use, what's your use, and that's in our table, and then the dimensional standards for what zone it's in. So even if someone wants to have a veterans housing project. And they wanna have it in low density, they have to meet the standards of what the low density district, which is. Apparent setbacks, single family. Homes, there's a certain amount of. Square footage for the lot and things of that nature. The height restrictions would be different. For the medium density, I know that the height restriction is still 35 feet. The setbacks.
And that's not any different than what low, our current low is, correct?
Correct.
So that's not changing. Just because the name medium density is coming in, that's not changing.
So I think your hesitancy about the use is fair, but restricting it in our dimensional standards with the zones. The districts themselves are what makes it low, medium, high, mixed use, has that different character limitations. I don't know an example off the top of my head that we could.
There's group homes all over the low density area.
I was gonna say, that's
Yes,
the
like
one,
group residential homes is the easiest one. that I
because
can
it
come up
wasn't,
with.
because it wasn't addressed in the existing zoning ordinance for certain numbers, I think like 4 is what comes to mind. There wasn't anything in our ordinance that addressed 4 people in a group home that the maximum occupancy was 4. Therefore, it was just considered a single family home, regardless of how it was occupied. If it's not occupied by more than 4 people, it's just a single family home. So, no, it's just 4.
For unrelated.
4 unrelated people, I'm sorry, yeah, 4 unrelated people. So there are several places where they're group homes, transitional, where there's only 4 people living there and it's not regulated by use. And they're located in several areas. Now, existing. And I think the other thing to look at too is because of the former elementary school and that proposal and the attention that it got, now I think everybody's propensity is to think that that's what a veterans housing or assisted or elderly housing is. It's a big giant facility. And that's not necessarily always the case, especially with things like veteran housing, from what we have been given as examples from consultants. It could be 4, 5, 6 people. It could be in a house that looks like a conventional 2-story house. But like Abby said, you still have to meet setback requirements, you still have to meet the lot width and area, they still have the parking requirements that they have to meet. All of those things still have to be addressed. The height restriction, so if you're in low density and it's permitted by right, you can't exceed that. You can't exceed the height restriction without going to the zoning hearing board for a variance. You can't encroach on the setback requirements any more than what's listed there without going to the zoning hearing board for a variance. And anybody at any time has the opportunity to go to the zoning hearing board and ask for a use variance. So what we're trying to do is tighten up the ordinance to eliminate those types of situations. So if we do address these things in the ordinance, hopefully we don't have those many requests. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I think the Fair Housing Act too is another big thing, because yes, like you said, we're telling businesses and commercial uses what zones they can be in. But as far as residential uses go, we have to take into account the Fair Housing Act and the things that we have to be compliant with there, because they're, in theory, they're residential.
Wanted to say something.
Thank you, Mayor. I totally agree with you. Just to add to the comment that I loved it that this group came in, that they were professionals. This is what they do for a living. And they showed us examples of what our town could be like. I mean, they zinged us in a couple of things. I noticed, like they said, hey, where's the real entryway to Lock Haven? Where's the welcome to Lock Haven feel? You know, wow, good point. But besides that, I liked everything. It's funny, I questioned their corner markets. They said, hey, there are places where you could have corner markets. And I thought, why would you want to have a corner market in the residential area, like on Highland Street? Sure enough, last weekend I went to go visit my daughter in Minnesota. And we left her house and walked to a little corner grocery store and walked to a little corner restaurant surrounded by residents. And I'm like, oh my God, this is beautiful. So I only had a absolutely positive experience, and I don't know if you guys.
For the record, because people are watching, state your name and
Sean Krieger. Yeah, Sean Krieger.
and your role in the process.
I volunteered because Abby told me to.
When you volunteered on our committee.
On the committee.
Helps with the.
Just because there are people watching over the internet and so on, so they know where you're coming from for all this. And so, you know, those of us who grown up here, we used to have corner markets throughout neighborhoods.
Yeah,
There was one, I lived on Bennett Avenue growing up, there was one 3 houses down from me. There was one down on Fairview Street on the corner near a church there.
We had one on
Yeah.
the corner.
Yeah, exactly. It is something that actually, this is encouraging by putting these things in, I think, maybe come back. It's hard to compete with big Walmarts, big grocery stores, but you never know, you know. So,
I think too, Joel, it's important to also, I understand, and I think that the comments have been fantastic. We have a great professional staff here at the city. I mean, Cindy has been here a long time, and I think that how things are looked at, how things are evaluated here is done in-house by our staff, and it's done extremely well. And so I think people can also be assured that that process is not changing. We are still going to have our in-house professional staff that's going to be looking at plans and making sure that what someone brings to the city to do does fall within the appropriate use in the appropriate zone, and that if it doesn't, our professional staff can be looking at it to say, "What? Look, it doesn't work here, but it could work here." Like we were talking about last week with you, Micah, about, you know, maybe this particular use doesn't work exactly here, but we have other places in town. I think that that's one of the things we've got with long-term professional staff here in the city. They're good at being flexible and helping people that want to do something here in the city find the right place to do that it fits into the city, to the landscape, to the zoning and all those kind of things. So I just think that people should be assured that our professional staff is going to be on top of these things like they always have been.
the questions, we were talking about different uses that can be done that couldn't before. Again, I really think that's the root, not to make it dispute me, I think that's really the root of the discomfort. Is what's now gonna be allowed to be built next to me that wasn't allowed to be built there before. So anything we can do to address those concerns, and again, if we have to reconsider something, we can. And I just said to Mikey the other day, we're doing this, but there are only 10 laws that were written in stone. So, you know, if we think something needs to be adjusted, things could be amended. Laws aren't like, you can't change them if it wasn't what you thought it would be. So, but we're doing our due diligence to make sure that everybody's clear before we make this. How long has it been since we took this comprehensive? Because I was here at the start of the process last time, but left before it really went through.
We were 1997 and 2008.
Yeah, so, yeah, I was here for both of those, at least to some portion of it. This feels like so much more comprehensive.
I think it feels like it's so much more comprehensive, at least in my opinion, from being involved in all three of them. Because there's so much more availability for public input and getting public feedback. And this is no discredit to prior staff, but our former city planner didn't have the internet, I mean, the Facebook, sorry, she's probably watching this, and I said we didn't have the internet, I know, Leonora.
Social media.
Social media, yes, thank you. So we've got a lot more avenues to get information out there to the public now, which is fantastic. But then it generates more involvement, more public input, more commitment from people.
It can also create some misinformation.
It absolutely can. And zoning is not something that's easily comprehended. I mean, it can be difficult, and that was part of what we heard with our comprehensive plan, was that they wanted something that was more user-friendly, something that was easier to look at, and I think that this accomplishes that. It's more readable, it's more in layman's terms. We've eliminated a lot of, just like today, Abby and I were talking about the front yard setback. In every residential zone, it was an equation that you had to come up with a number based on the cornices of the two front cornices of the adjacent properties. It just needs to be a number, so people know that, look, this is what it needs to be. So I think that we're moving towards that goal. And like I said, zoning isn't something that's easily understandable. And when you're bringing the public into this and educating them on it, I think that in the long run, this is a fantastic opportunity for them to have a better understanding of what this is and what their rights are and what they can do in certain situations. So it's been more comprehensive in that way, but I think it's been a good thing.
And I'll just add as well, the changes in the districts, was something that it's always more visible. I would enjoy looking more at a map than at text, so people can see the different districts. We're not keeping single family, low, medium, high. We're transitioning those to low, medium, high, but we're expanding in the commercial districts. The existing ordinance has like 3 different industrial districts. Our community has changed. We're not focused on general commercial, industrial, airport industrial, or we have industrials, we have general commercial, we have airport. And in the uses do mix within those. So the focus has, instead of broadening in industrial, we're broadening in where the people and the businesses are, I mean, by what we've seen. But that's really the most visible part of this changes and what people must look at. So I do think it's sweeping in that way.
Yeah. Well, like, for so long, we had those districts named what they were named. They changed, a couple times, but that's what makes it feel so comprehensive. Where you're no longer gonna be low density residential or single family. That's what's really got people nervous.
And I think, and here's the thing, I think the other thing we need to keep in mind from an understanding standpoint. Right now, if you open up those lists, it's complicated. But once it's done, there will only be a list, right? I mean, there'll be by zone, but I understand that, but there'll be on a list. So that once you go to that particular district or that particular zone, there will be a list. So, what's approved, what's not approved. So right now we're looking at the old one and the new one on graphs together, and I think it's confusing to people.
It is.
And frankly, the other thing is terminology has changed, like you were saying, for district, terminology has changed so much over the last 18 years that then it is almost required you to make changes. Or other people that want to come in to your community aren't gonna understand your community because they're coming from places that have already kept their, their.
We're more up to date.
Yeah, a little more up to date. Then there are places that are behind us too. I don't wanna pretend that we're at the bottom of the stack here. I've hit a lot of communities recently that are certainly behind us, but it's hard. You're right, it is hard. It's a hard process, but it's an important process
Yes.
and a necessary process.
And it's fluid.
Yeah,
It's, that's what I'm trying to
right.
point out here, is that it's not something static that's gonna stay that way. You're hoping to preserve the character of the areas that you want, but allow for growth, and that's not easy to do with the changing world as fast as it's been changing, especially recently. How many things have changed drastically since 2020. So, I don't know that when we're done, that it'll be perfect. No, we ever will be to perfection.
Yeah.
The idea is to improve when, I guess my question for council is, I know several of us were not as educated on this as we hoped to be. Are you feeling better those? About where it's at? Do you have other things that you think should be different? Anything? Yes, sir.
Can we bring up livestock? Where did we get our thought process of why we're going to
We
move?
did remove that. That was one of the uses that we did remove in response to the hearing and.
Didn't we just say if we have it nowhere in the ordinance, it could be anywhere?
It is, yeah, Seth, can you pinpoint the exact wording, because that was something we bounced off of you and Nick about livestock uses, if we do not allow that on how that translates.
So, okay, can everybody hear me? Okay. Abby, you are essentially correct. So if you don't provide for a use, and this is somewhat of an inevitable outcome. I mean, you can't account for every single use that's ever going to come up, but if you don't provide for one, it does come in not as a permitted use, but it kind of defaults as a special exception. And so that still gives you an opportunity to provide some controls. It is always better, in my opinion, to at least have it in the table and permit it if you want to have it anywhere, if you want to give it a place, or at least control it, because you're better off doing that than not having anything. Keeping of livestock in Lock Haven is, to me, an unlikely outcome. But if it does come before the city, then it would come in as a special exception and would go through that approval process.
Chickens count as livestock?
Keeping of chickens is a separate use. Keeping of honeybees is a separate use. So if you wanted to get into any of like the larger borderline domesticated animals such as cows or goats, then it would require some special approval processes. But we have, I will say, the more common ones like bees and chickens already covered.
Is every animal, like if I wanted a kangaroo, could I get a kangaroo? Because it's not in the ordinance.
That would be a first for me after so many years of doing this.
If anybody's gonna come up with the off the wall thing, it's gonna be like.
And then walk by his house tomorrow and he'll have a kangaroo.
Yep.
I have seen some strange things in my years of doing this.
I'm saying this, I know a guy did it.
You would default.
He had a pet store, and because there was nothing in the zoning ordinance about kangaroos, the guy was selling kangaroos.
But as a retail operation.
Right, but there was nothing, so he could have sold to anybody because it wasn't.
Doesn't mean they could keep them at their house, though.
Right.
It wasn't in the zoning ordinance.
But if we would find that someone's keeping them in the house, we would then I don't know, enforce it and they would have.
You would say that, okay, you have a use that's not necessarily in violation of the ordinance, but it's an unidentified, you have to go through a special exception process. And things like
I'm
that.
gonna call the house, she doesn't have to deal with
My last day.
Since you had just said something there at the end, but the laughter, I didn't
it.
hear.
Sorry.
It's okay. No, I said you would, the enforcement mechanism for that would be telling them that they were doing something that is not inherently permitted. You would have to go through the special exception process.
Anything?
No,
Yes,
sir. Where do we have the adult establishments still? Do we still have them in the mixed section? Because if we have them in mixed sections, part of the wording says it cannot be within so many feet of a residence. I don't understand why we'd even have that there. That makes absolutely no sense.
We are looking at shifting that to just the industrial district, if the solicitor is good with that for same reasons of. Allowing for space, if it can't just be in industrial, it would be industrial in general commercial.
Yeah, Abby, I would expect that to not be an issue. In today's world of Pennsylvania planning, the industrial district does tend to be, I don't know a good word to use it, but where you put all the uses you don't want anywhere else. But you still want to define them, you still want to provide a location for them. Adult entertainment establishment is a common one there. Here recently, data centers have become the hot button issue, obviously across the country. We're seeing those pop up because you have to, if you want to control them, you need to control them somewhere. So the industrial use becomes a location for those. But then like skill games and those types of things before the recent regulations came into effect were often relegated to industrial districts.
Another question.
You keep going.
I tell you, I've been watching, I've been reading. All right, so my question, when I look at the zoning map from the old to the new. I was noticing that the Lock Haven University McIntyre section, the old Hills High Hall. I lived in High Hall. That was interesting. Back in the day, but anyhow, it used to be high yellow. Now it is recreational. Did the university have a hand in asking for that ordinance change, or did we just throw them a bone because they don't know what they're going to do with it? Or I was just curious with the direction of that.
Which piece are we talking about?
So up by the university, it's surrounded by blue, and that's the only yellow bright section that is right there. I believe that is the High Hall McIntyre section. And those were old dormitories, and they're gone. So now that area is all green. So that's now recreational / open space. So my question was, did we communicate with the university and they asked for that change? Because that could be a major shocker to them if they can't do anything with it. Unless they ask for, which I don't think they would. I was just curious.
We did have Stacy Wagner, their facilities manager, on our steering committee. And she did not share any concerns about that, but we can follow up directly.
So I think they still have a dorm up there.
Yeah, I would say through our kind of designation, everything.
Yeah,
that's right.
So they still have one up there, so.
He's trying to say something.
Oh, go ahead.
Do they
Well, we
own
can't
the
have-
property? Do they own that piece of property?
Yes,
Okay. Because we should have everything in general, to the best of my knowledge, that's owned by the university in that blue district.
Like on the map, it has a different owner.
That's
that?
it, right in the property that was then bought.
Yeah, it was just bought.
maybe I missed it.
Yeah, that actually is like
That was.
Is that behind is this the McIntyre section then?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I'm sorry, that's.
Jeff.
So this is all this.
Okay, then all right. Yeah, that's why we have these conversations.
Okay, so share that with us so that we're all part of it.
So everybody, that is to the left of Glen Road from McIntyre. So that,
If you go up the hill.
if you go up the hill there on the right there, driving out there, that used to be all yellow.
Yeah.
Huh,
So,
okay, my apologies.
That's
That's why I
okay.
had
No,
conversations.
I'm glad for the reason to have these discussions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, clear up the misunderstanding. Anything else, Mr. Breaker?
No, I'm good for today.
See you tomorrow.
Anyone else have?
We didn't finish the conversation last week on the resident limit being based on acreage.
We did adjust that to be based on square footage of the building. When talking with Seth and Nick and Cindy as well, there's really no hesitancy in doing that, so we adjusted that to be based on the building square footage.
Anything else?
What's the limit now?
Seth, do you recall the limit for assisted living facilities?
Yeah, give me just a second. I think that is on, I'll give, Abby, can we get a written response back on that one? Because my version is out of date, but we know we're gonna change it. We might not have actually made the change. It might be on our change log still. So we can get back on that.
Do you know a typical of what that number usually is? I know that's tough.
If we're gonna base it off building square footage. It's hard to say. I mean, if you just did the pure numbers, it's, one resident per 4,350 square feet of property area, but that's obviously still based on land area. If we look at building, it's probably somewhere in the realm of 3, 4, 5, 600, somewhere in that. But I will confirm that after we make that from our log of changes that we're still working through.
I'm still gonna email that to you.
Yes, of course. Yep.
Thank you. Any other questions or concerns? We incorporate any of the other suggestions that were emailed in.
Do you have a specific?
I don't know, I just know that there were some that were emailed and.
Yeah, I can. Let's see, I'm looking through the change log currently. We are adjusting the riverfront district to go to Locust Alley, which is the next alley from where it is currently at Canal Park.
So slightly bigger,
Slightly
but
further.
it's still smaller than what the original
Correct.
was, okay?
Correct. We're continuing to look at nonconformities, and having conversations with some residents on that matter. I think that I just need to do a little bit more of explaining of what we have. We do have nonconformities in two different sections. Seth, feel free to chime in. We have like an accidental and a non-accidental, is that correct?
Correct.
And when I was speaking with this person, I only referenced the non-accidental. So I think just we're working on that and making sure that we're up to speed. The state college ordinance was referenced, and we'll bounce that off of what we have here, but we do believe it's fairly in line with what State College has. State College has a limit of 50% damage from non-accidental. If you're if you're below that 50%, you can restore the nonconformity. If you're above that 50%, you cannot restore that nonconformity. We have ours set at 75%. So it is a little bit more flexible on if there is a non-accidental change of that nature. And for your sake, non-accidental would be someone picked up and walked away and abandoned the building, and now it's falling down. Accidental would be an act of God, a fire, the tornado hits on that house, something like that. So. We updated the warehouse and logistics use a little bit, so. Minimum lot area for a large warehouse, logistics use, or truck terminal having a gross floor area more than 100,000 square feet shall be 5 acres. It was previously 10 acres. Of gross floor area for warehouses, again, between 25,000 square feet and 100,000 square feet. Is 2.5 acres, and that was previously 5 acres, so we can dump them down a little bit. Convenience store buffer was changed to 1,500 feet to 1,000 feet.
So the corner shops that we were discussing would be like, are they gonna be considered a convenience store?
That is, I mean,
Sorry, Abby, what was the question? Was it, I think I heard it, would it be a convenience store?
The corner shops that we talked about, would they be considered convenience stores?
So I think we would generally consider them, like the ones that would be permitted in some of the residential districts are like our neighborhood commercial scale uses and our neighborhood assemblies and our neighborhood retail. Neighborhood retail is defined. Let's go retail. So we have a list of like typical retail uses in the definition section of the zoning ordinance. We provide a list of typical neighborhood type retails. You know, it's like art galleries, small appliance stores, beer, liquor, line sales, but that obviously requires a liquor license. Electronics, florist, framing, like a whole series of those types of different retail operations. We do have a special, we do specifically define convenience stores, and those are not permitted either by right, special exception, or conditional use in any of the residential districts.
so the convenience store limitation would be not those corner stores that we were referencing before. Those corner stores would be the neighborhood retail uses.
And so any project that came before the city, we have our definition, we have our table of typical retail neighborhood retail uses as our mechanism to control the types of retail uses that we see in those corner stores.
Okay,
What was the definition of convenience store again?
A retail store with a wide mix of goods typically used daily, including household goods, personal health items, cosmetics, candy, tobacco products, and food. Can also include the sale of gasoline.
I don't know, when I think corner store, I think we're gonna carry most, if not all of them, with the exception of probably not gas.
So the.
I think you get into a situation where you might try to be overly prescriptive on the type of retail use.
And the neighborhood retail use includes like public market is in there, specialty food. I'm just going
Sporting
further.
goods, toys, baby supplies.
Yeah, apparel, small appliances. I think the difference is here, the gross floor area of less than 30,000 square feet for a neighborhood retail. So while they could have overlap in with a convenience store,
Less than what?
3,000 square feet. So while they could have overlap with a convenience store, we're really limiting the size with this use. It's a neighborhood commercial meant to fit into the smaller stores.
I never looked at the store down the street from me as a convenience store. It was a little place that had bread and milk and get a soda or an ice cream. Place out on 150 at the light, which had gasoline, and that was a convenience store. Okay. I think there's a difference, a big difference.
It can't be argued though, and somebody
Well-
with a store trying to stop somebody from. Because they're selling bread and milk.
Again, if they argue, it has to come before. It has to come before a zoning board.
If you're gonna argue it, then.
Yeah.
So again,
Yeah,
then.
we're not gonna eliminate every argument. We're trying to limit.
We're trying to
not
limit
gonna
it, but
limit it,
there's-
because there's always gonna be that, pardon the term, that brash entrepreneur that wants what they want and they're gonna fight for it, whether it's supposed to be allowed to be there or not. So
Yeah, and-
we're not gonna eliminate all the arguments. This is to try to streamline it a bit and still give us and the people of the city some say in what's going on. That's why you do this.
Right.
So, anyway, do you have anything else that you wanna get into? We can, or, cause if not, I think we've beat this up pretty good tonight.
Was it 1,000 feet
It was 1,000 feet between
between convenience stores?
convenience stores.
Okay, so can somebody tell me what that is in city blocks?
Well, on our city blocks vary, but when I did the measurement on that from the Weiss gas station to the 7-Eleven, there's a 200-foot strip where you can actually put them.
But
Because they're about 2,200 feet apart.
that's. I don't know that I would want more than one in between those two, like, really from. From their standpoint, like an economic standpoint, I don't know that they would want to build in between the White Go and Sunoco at the top of the hill. That doesn't feel like you would make a lot of money there.
True, that's just on Bellefonte Avenue.
Yeah,
And there's nowhere to park.
and there's nowhere to park, but that, like 1,000 feet feels like a
Thinking
good.
that circle. And pull it up on the maps and see.
I just was trying to visualize what 1,000 feet was, so now I have it in my head, okay.
Okay,
I'm good.
all right. Well, thank you for taking the time. I think there were a lot of things that are clear to me. But based on what I'm hearing from most council, a lot of things that are clear to us. And we still have ways to go before this is all said and done. So if anybody's watching this and they have concerns, please get them to us. We can get this process finished off.
We're planning for second reading and adoption on September 21st, which is our next meeting. In that meantime, if
Maybe one of these things from this.
okay, our next regular meeting. So comments could be sent, to City Walker, the comments that we, or the contacts that we have. Until I think 2 weeks before it is, because we do have to advertise the ordinance again and get that out there, make sure the changes are out there. Planning Commission will recommend adoption or consider recommendation of adoption again at their September meeting. So we're basically restarting the process again. And if there, like I said, any other comments or questions, please send it to us.
Yes.